Alright, so it's Vanguard discussion time. I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about this week. I thought about doing the Avatar video for you guys. But then I was like, you know what? I'm still not feeling it. So we'll get to that point eventually, as you guys can see the bright outside. I actually want to discuss good old GB8. And how some people are dramatically mad at GB08, and other people just particularly like, that's cool. Are we gonna play it? So, GB8 is literally your final burst. Alright? All of your anime references, your fucking Trans Am from Gundam, whatever the fuck you want to call it. No, if you look at Garmor, it's like his little final burst before his armor breaks. What does this mean for the game? Is this good for the game? Is this bad for the game? Well, you're now on a timer to play against your opponent. Now, this is both good and bad. Rush decks aren't going to have any problem with GB8 existing. It's actually fucking fine that it exists. Actually, GB8 it's good for the game. So, my first line of thinking here when I first originally saw GB8 was, am I really gonna fucking play these? A lot of decks can't really achieve GB8 without some sort of bullshit hassle, and if you want GB8 to be a thing, some decks will only be able to do it on their fourth stride. Now that's assuming that the first stride flips, the second stride flips, and the third stride flips, and you have a G-Guardian in there. That's a lot. Alright, now you can bullshit and say, oh, 2 G-Guardians, okay, sure. Gear Chronicle's the first deck that comes to mind, because on my Groovy turn, I can just Soul Blast, flips away, and as long as I have a heal trigger, I can do it reliably on my third stride. Now, and a lot of people are already looking at that thing and going, well, Binding 8's fucking terrible. The card's actually pretty decent for what it gives you. You're essentially using it to kick punt your opponent. And if your opponent should already be at a low damage count when you're playing the deck, then you should be in a good position. A lot of people don't know how to play Gear Chronicle, sadly, and it's really irking. Now, the question is there room to play it? I'd play the fucking card, because the particular GB8 skill that Gear Chronicle has is really fucking good. But typically, if you're going into your Groovy turn, why do I want to go into that when I can just go into another next stage? Unfortunately, it's kind of the same thing outside of you get to call some more shit and do some more things. It's personal preference. If I can find some way to fit it in, sure, we'll play it. Now, also, the Royal Paladin one is pretty ridiculous. Being able to call 5 units, it's pretty adorable. The Dimensional Robo one, fucking 80,006 critical. Oh, man. It's never gonna fucking happen, but I want to see someone get Dimensional Roboed in the face at GB8 and just fucking get shit on, but it's not gonna happen. There's no fucking way. So, GB8 is good for some decks. Now let's talk about the metagame and the impact of GB8. Gear Chronicle's the only real deck at the moment that's even gonna consider this shit. I shouldn't even have to say that to you guys. The fact that Gear Groovy can Persona flip up an extra 3 cards, it's pretty fucking stupid. So, what does this mean? Well, same thing if you guys play competitive at the moment, you guys will understand. Most games are over on the second stride. And that is if your opponent lets you even attempt to play the game. You forget 7 Seas Rush is still a very prominent deck, especially with Rumi Rumi coming out soon. It's definitely something else that is very scary. Also, on the flip side of the equation, you have the Blaster Horseman of Death, aka Blaster Blade swinging in with fucking double drive check with a fucking Flogel behind it going, restand. Especially if your opponent hits the trigger off of it. Once again, this is where Gear Chronicle actually is pretty cool, because you get Head Around is a good card. That's all I'm saying. Remember, guys, you don't perform your drive checks because Mr. Head Around goes, no, 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 not today, motherfucker. GB8. What more do they have left to give the game? They gave us an extra deck. They don't want us to play 2 out of 3, so I don't see a side deck is going to be an effective measure. G Guardians were a very excellent push in the right direction, though Seabreeze was designed... he was designed correctly for the time, but I don't think they really foresaw the Grade 1 rush being a thing. I think that was a little bit more unorganized. And one of the things that the American metagame has to worry about that a lot of the OCG metagame doesn't have to worry about is, some of their events are only G era 1 up. GBT 01. In America, we have to deal with everything. I think that's what makes our metagame kind of cool. That will make GBA a little bit more interesting here is, we still have things like Thing Saver, our Majesty thing, floating around. Glendios, if you don't know how to play against that deck, will come fuck you up. Sweep Command is another excellent deck that's been thrown to the wayside, that if you don't know how to play against it, you're going to have a very bad time. And I think that's something that, now with the inclusion of GB8 in the game, if your game does go to that point, you are going to be asking yourself, is my opponent playing this? And I saw a discussion on Vanguardians last night, water, about Seabreeze and how some people have cut it recently. And this is going to be the same mentality towards GB8. When you're playing the game, you have to ask yourself, does my opponent have the Seabreeze? Is it appropriate to stay at grade 2? Do I need to waste the additional resource and the extra turn not to ride because my opponent's Luard is going to stick it in my fucking asshole? Unfortunately, at some stage in playing this game now, you're going to have to ask yourself, if your opponent has their final burst ready and you can't receive the dick, then the Dickens will be given and you'll be taking the entire shaft, aka the full blunt. So the one main advantage I'm seeing here is, unfortunately, Gear Chronicle having as much as they have, their final burst is going to resolve essentially before everyone else's final burst resolves, which is a little bit unfair, but in a card game like this, you have to understand that there are decks that are inherently better than others, but because Gear Chronicle has so much already, you just need to ask yourself, can we fit this shit in there? Is that how we're going to make room for that? Dedicating away from possible resources in some decks will have room for it because they don't already have a full G-Zone. You would think in this point in time that a lot of decks would already have maximized their G-Zones. A lot of decks are very undersupported. GBA, I feel, is a little bit more of a recognition to those decks that don't necessarily have it. But the moral of this video is, if you're playing competitive, you might not be able to achieve GB8 because the rush decks, the counter rushes, the control games that I think a lot of people underestimate in this game, they will counter you. And if your opponent does resolve the game to GB8 and have GB8, well, you might just be taking 80,006 critical to the Vanguard, unless you have a perfect shield at that stage in the game. But it's all about proper resource management, making sure that, if the game state is going to that point, that you'll be prepared for it. It's just another thing, much like making the Seabreeze argument here, that players need to be aware of when they're playing. Don't underestimate the fact that just because your opponent has a 16 card G-Zone, that they might not fit it. Could you guys imagine if they upped the G-Zone to fucking 24 to accommodate for fucking the fact that we're getting GB8? I just realized that. You know how much that would fucking actually suck? Now my opponent can play... Man, that makes me cringe as a Gear Chronicle player. That means if they upped it to 24 from 16, I can play Ragnar Clock now. I can play the flipping G Guardian, and I can fit in GB8 for absolutely no problem. Every other deck is rolling over in their grave right now face planting because they're just like, this is fucking stupid. No, this is what we've gotten ourselves into. This is the new era of Vanguard. So I like it. I like GBA. I don't have any qualms with it. I welcome a little extra layer of things into the game. It's interesting that they're putting a natural cap on the game. It's kind of like buddy fights, whatever the fuck they call them, Final Impact. I don't fucking know. I don't play buddy fight. That's almost what I feel it's become now. So there'll be a way to manipulate it, I think. We'll have to wait and see. Definitely it's important to understand that Gear Chronic will be able to do it so fucking early in their turns. But XD, Dayusha, 6 critical, 80,000 to the Vanguard. You know it's going to happen. Like, just once, someone's going to eat that. It'll make watching some of these matches and some of the games that my friends are playing more interesting too. But that's all I have to say. What do you guys think about GB8? We're going to be doing these discussions, like I said, once a week. I'm going to tend to stick to them once a week. We might do a market watch on this channel. I haven't decided if I want to go down that rabbit hole yet. Be too many people already bitching about the secondary market, because a lot of this community seems to think that the secondary market is a terrible thing, and how just because I've bought out cards in the past, how I'm a terrible person, though I'm just here to make money. So that's my 2 cents on that. But yeah, guys, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about GBTO 8, Generation Break 8, not GTBO 8. God, alright guys.